Hello and welcome to Who Won the Week, your weekly dose of TV advertising news and analysis. My name is Aaron Taube, EDO's content marketing manager. I am filling in for our regular host, Matt Ulrich, who is off on vacation. And I am joined today by two colleagues who are so bright that I can't even look at them without these glasses. Rebecca Sandidge and Will Price, thank you so much for joining the show once again. Rebecca, did you get a chance to check out this eclipse?
I did. You know what? I'm going to take these off. I can't see you. They were very helpful yesterday in watching the eclipse, though. I did see it, and it seemed like everybody in my neighborhood was out watching it too, taking a break from work, from errands, whatever they were doing was kind of beautiful that like everybody took a pause just to go look at
Yeah.
the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lovely day. Lots of people out and about, and everyone was looking at it. And Will, can you tell me a little bit about what other things are drawing a lot of engagement, a lot of people getting into it
Y-
during the
Yeah,
daytime hours?
I think the eclipse got everybody outside. I think we can all expect that viewership during that window of time probably fell off dramatically. And we wanted to take a look at afternoon daytime engagement. I think it is an underserved day part. Certain categories do really well when they compare to prime time. Understand the viewership, the impressions may not be there during prime as they are during prime time, but categories like insurance as a category as a whole 68% more effective on a per person per second basis in our data than their prime time performance, and something like tax services, which I think is really relevant right now that we're counting down to next week when the deadline hits us. But tax services as a category 74% more effective during afternoon daytime. So some interesting engagement metrics from our data of finding engaged audiences during a daytime that or day part that maybe overlooked by some brands. So just interesting to see.
Got it. That's really cool to see some of these advertisers doing well during the afternoon daytime. And now that we got this whole eclipse thing out of the way, it's time to talk about the real earth-shattering event that happened that we all saw here in the Northeast this past week. I am not talking about the earthquake. I am, of course, talking about the granddaddy of them all, the showcase of the immortals, WrestleMania 40. It was a two-day event, Saturday and Sunday at Philadelphia's Lincoln Financial Field. Both nights aired on Peacock, NBC Universal streaming service, and it was a big, big event. Lots of people. I saw that the gate was up year over year from last year. It'd be interesting to see once there's numbers about how many people watched it on Peacock. It featured the in-ring return of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and we saw Cody Rhodes finish his story, as they say, by defeating the longtime champion Roman Reigns with some help from returning stars, some surprise appearances from John Cena and The Undertaker. So big, big nights of wrestling for World Wrestling Entertainment and their fans. And Will, did you hear about this? Did this kind of break into your zone of media consumption?
Yeah, so look, I grew up in early days of WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant,
Oh wow, the
Ultimate Warrior
'80s.
time frame, right? So it was really cool. I did hear more about this year. Friends in the neighborhood, friends of my kids talking about it on the way to school. So it broke through. I think this is a great example of sort of connecting generations, and I think a lot of brands are hoping that's the case as well. We saw brands like Snickers, Dude Wipes, C4 energy drinks, Wingstop participate. No surprise, Logan Paul, Prime Sports Drink was an advertiser within WrestleMania. So it'll be interesting to see how these brands perform with this event. I think is breaking through.
Yeah, I mean the new WWE, with their since they merged with UFC to become TKO under the Endeavor banner, and they are certainly open for business. Lots of advertising. The Prime logo, center of the ring. Lots of sponsorships throughout the shows. And it's really fascinating because it turns out that pro wrestling is a pretty underrated driver of advertising engagement. It's not quite a live sport, but a lot of people do tune in live. They live and die with their favorite wrestlers, both in the incumbent leader, World Wrestling Entertainment, and the new challenger brand, All Elite Wrestling. Um, Over the past year, ads on WWE's Monday Night Raw were 39% more likely to generate consumer engagements like branded searches and website visits that are really predictive of future sales. And so they were 39% more likely to engage with ads on Monday Night Raw than the broadcaster cable primetime average. And that's a 21% increase year over year. That company is really, really hot right now from a business perspective. People are tuning in. They're into The Rock, they're into Roman Reigns, they're into the Bloodline, they're into the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And then also a great year too over at the Challenger brand, All Elite Wrestling. That's my personal favorite. They have three programs on TNT and TBS, so under the Warner Brothers Discovery banner. They launched in 2019, and those shows are 12% more likely to generate consumer engagement than the average ad airing on primetime broadcast or cable. So very very exciting times in AEW as well, building to the big uh, Will Ospreay versus Brian Danielson match on April 21st on pay per view. I can't wait. It is a true dream come true. I don't know, Rebecca, are you also pumped for Will Ospreay versus Brian Danielson, or more just kind of focused on some of the
You
brands that are
know,
investing in
I'm
AEW and
I'm at that
WWE?
beginning I'm at that beginning part of, the wrestling discovery
Yeah,
phase, but I mean, like Will, I'm also seeing a lot of chatter about it. My kids are talking about it with their friends on the bus. Like, you're a big fan, so there definitely seems to be some rising popularity, right? Um, and I think, in terms of, what we're seeing for advertisers in this space, there's a lot of big name advertisers in wrestling lately, right? So, like a lot of tip of the spear brands who are really tapping into this engaged audience and probably have some trend forecasting saying that this is something that's really growing in popularity across generations. So, like we're seeing a lot of P&G in there, and they really tend to be at the forefront of, finding these really special environments. A lot of their brands are doing really well. There's a real consistency in the spike in engagement that they're getting from wrestling, right? So brands, like Dawn and Puffs and NyQuil, they have a lot of different brands in there, and they're all doing well in wrestling. So definitely something to be said for the sport and capturing some viewer engagement, right? It is a sport, right? Do we call it a sport?
yeah.
I think it is. I
You
mean,
know, I think it's the sport of kings and queens,
yeah.
you might say. There's a company in Japan called New Japan Pro Wrestling. They say they're the king of sports.
Oh, wow.
WWE for many years has branded
Bold.
what they do sports entertainment. So sports is in the
Yeah.
eye of the beholder, and as you mentioned, it's really fascinating because um, despite having great ratings, historically wrestling has suffered from low ad rates because of advertiser perceptions about the amount of disposable income that the audience has. And growing up, it was all like Castrol GTX and 1-800 Collect, and now I'm looking at our list of the most effective advertisers on
Yeah.
AEW, and I'm looking at like Applebee's and Diet Coke and Pampers, right?
Yeah.
It's really something else. So that's been cool to see. And just as WWE crowned a new champion in Cody Rhodes, there was another two new champions crowned in NCAA basketball. Iowa lost to South Carolina in the women's final. This was an extraordinary, you know, lots of viewership, and it means that Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark will leave college without winning a national championship. She'll probably get drafted. We all assume first by the in the WNBA draft by the Indiana Fever. Will, what does it mean for Caitlin Clark's legacy that she won't go home with a national championship in college? Is she still one of the greats, or is she, where does she rank in the pantheon?
I think you cannot deny the greatness. I think the viewership, the engagement, everything we see just validates her legacy. And I know there's a lot of debate of whether or not she's considered the GOAT because she didn't bring home the championship. I think it is not necessary. If we look at the viewership from the Final Four games, 14.2 million viewers tuned in. Add another 4.5 million to that for the championship game. I mean, the viewership is one thing, but also the engagement, the power of Caitlin Clark, which we've seen from our metrics. State Farm, she appeared in almost 300 ads for State Farm since November. And since then, those ads that Caitlin Clark appeared were 46% more effective than the average State Farm ad. Add to that, if they ran in games where Caitlin Clark was playing and Iowa was playing, 28% more effective. So you cannot deny the power of her greatness, the power of her draw, pulling audiences in. Of course, I think a lot of us would have liked to see that storybook ending to her college career, but I think it has no impact on her legacy whatsoever.
Rebecca, what do you see in the future for Caitlin Clark and women's basketball at large? It seems like this was a huge high watermark. Where does she go from
Yeah.
here as sort of like a brand in the public eye? And what do we think this means for both NCAA women's basketball without her, and then the professional ranks sort of adding this huge superstar into kind of their growth wave?
Yeah, good questions. And I think a lot of us are going to be tracking this pretty closely to see what does happen to women's college basketball. I mean, she was just such, a great thing for the sport, drawing a lot of new viewers in, inspiring young girls and boys to, really appreciate women's basketball and how exciting it can be. So I do think that like one of her legacies in college basketball is going to be to having like established this on the national stage. I think that the ratings are going to continue to be really strong. And that it's really drawn in a whole new audience. But I also think this is just the beginning for Caitlin Clark. I mean, we are not done hearing about the influence that she can have on culture, on ratings. So we have a few things to be looking forward to for more of the Caitlin Clark fans. So we have the WNBA draft on the 15th. So Caitlin's supposed to go number one. And then a month later, the WNBA season starts, right? So May 15th. And I'm sure that the broadcasters are so excited to have her there. TNT is going to be showing the games in prime time on the weekends. I'm sure she's going to be pulling in that viewership. And then the third thing in the world of Caitlin Clark mania is the Olympics, right? So we don't know yet if she's going to be on the team. I think she was invited to practice, but she was busy with that little national championship game and couldn't go. But that too, I think there's a good chance she's going to be on the Olympic team, and that's going to draw in um, even more viewership and really increase the profile of the sport. And the women in the Olympics, they've won 7 times in a row, won gold. So all eyes on them. I think it's going to be a big thing, and Kelly Clark is just going to kind of have a multiplying effect on how many people tune in.
Awesome. Yeah, that is super duper exciting. A lot of exciting stuff coming up in the world
Yeah.
of TV and TV advertising. We go from the highs, the excitement, the tables breaking of WrestleMania to next week. We'll have a little bit calmer. We talk in the
Yeah.
Masters golf tournament, so slow things down a little bit. As always, you can check out edo.com/resources for all of our latest insights. We got some cool blog posts up. We got the wrestling blog post. We got something about how travel advertisers have fared recently. Really interesting work on how pizza advertisers have done at the NCAA tournament. So if you're hungry for some more EDO TV outcomes data, check out our website. And until next time, thank you guys both so much for joining us, Will and Rebecca. I really appreciate your time. You were amazing as always, and have a great week.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.